It seems like a long time since I asked this, so I'll ask it again. Anybody who remembers it, you should now have the potential to look and perhaps find another hole. Is it possible in areas like this in particular? Is it possible to actually talk in a way that would be all positive? Not in some hocus pocus Dale Carnegie idea that everybody's all right. But why is it when people want to change, they start off, and this has real implications in your own nervous system, the basic makeup of humanity. It's not your personal psychological situation, but to realize is, particularly in this, everybody starts out believing they're broke and need to be fixed up. Then right above beyond the horizon is this sometimes unspecified dream. Not only am I broke and want to be fixed, but I want to be super fixed. But then, as is quite common with this, is why it gets to be known as New Age and occult and mysticism and super stuff, is many of those people that start out broke even get worse broke. And they're the ones that believe that, yes, I talked to Jesus. Yes. I'm talking about 4 days after he died, when the rest of them said they went back home. They not only never get fixed, they become more broke than they ever imagined they could be when they started. Back to my question. Is it possible just to jump in? It hasn't been up till now. But is it possible just to jump in, that somebody could do it to themselves, or somebody could be so pushed and encouraged just what to do? And just never mind all this sensation about that you're broke and need to be fixed first, and then you will be super fixed. You know, you're broke. Is that possible? Was it possible last time I asked 6 months ago? Was it possible a year ago? If it's become possible for some of you, how come I don't know it? Why isn't it more blatant? It is about time for many of you to be able to forge, if not feel, a new kind of partnership. It has to be a kind of partnership that you have got to be able to depend on you. Now, even though this is not the kind of terminology used back in the city with ordinary people, this is one of the all-encompassing descriptions of people feeling broke, that they can't depend on themselves. If you could depend on yourself, even if you were just an ordinary person, if you were just a city dweller, you wouldn't feel broke. I know it's broken, so don't write me. You wouldn't feel broke. You would not be wanting to be healed. You would not be wanting to be helped. You would not be wanting to talk to somebody. You wouldn't want to be analyzed. You wouldn't want to learn how to chant in a certain way or how to meditate unless you believe that you were broken. A part and parcel of this feeling is that the nervous system, that which seems to be the person. You got problems? That people cannot depend on themselves. That could be looked at, if you want to take it at the city level, to an extreme, into the people who are neurotic, if not psychotic, if they're called, the real fringe of the bell curve back in the city. That is one description, no matter what sort of clinical description psychologists and psychiatry may have, is the people, all the way from the somnambulistic to those who seem to be rendered inert by some kind of fear or phobia, or people who are maniacs and screaming have to be tied up. All of that, you understand, could be diagnosed by simply saying these people cannot depend on themselves. And you'd have to go, all right, that's not clinical. And I've got to use bigger words than that because I spent 12 years in med school. But yeah, you're right, they can't depend on themselves. From that extreme into more or less everyday life, it's still what you're faced with, all the way from the parent approach and attitude that you have toward your job. That if, assume when we talk about a job now, assume it is not really tied to your hobby, to any real interest. It is just how you pay the rent. There is a continual feeling that I can't depend on me to do the job. I can't depend on me to necessarily be on time on Monday. I can't depend on me to always read all the new bulletins and to do everything that the company requires. In personal relationships, people believe, well, I can't really depend upon me. Regardless of the fact that people are always, as they should, that's what blame's for, remember, shift it around. There's enough for everybody. You can move it around. It's not going anywhere. You can hold it a while and push it off on somebody else. And yet with that feeling that out there are people giving me problems, it is still the basic feeling. Not only that lovers are always hurting me, but it's I can't depend on me either, because some of it I've got to have brought on myself. I just can't depend. I can get 4 or 5 drinks and I'll try to pick up anything that's got a skirt on. I can't depend on me. I can't depend on me to remember her birthday, to remember our anniversary. It's a continuing non-stop of I can't depend on me. The people that I have thrown out of this, people I've turned out and tricked out, etc., they could be looked at this way, that they could not depend upon themselves. If I said, why'd you do so-and-so? I told everybody not to do that. And I told you specifically not to do that. It's always the feeling that, yeah, and I did not do it intentionally. I didn't do it just to prove I could do it. I didn't do it to be spiteful. I didn't do it to be contrary. I forgot. I slipped, etc. It is a feeling I cannot depend on me. I would also suggest to you, among the many, many, many other delicious, oftentimes vanilla-filled reasons for humanity to believe in God, another great one is that at least there's somebody somewhere I can depend on. If I really wanted to, if I could get close enough, if I knew exactly how, if the time was right, that there is somebody somewhere, the ultimate person, thing that you can depend on, because I sure can't depend on me. Folks, I'm about to tell you, without any psychology or any self-help, I've given you enough information, we've played enough around the edges, that you're going to have to face the fact real quick, most of you, because I'm going to start taking this a little somewhere else, whether you people are actively involved or not. I have given you enough. There's enough information, and if you were correctly to this born, that you're going to have to sort of pull yourself together. And you're going to have to forge even a kind of new partnership. Because if you belong in this, there is a piece in your nervous system upon which you can depend. It is almost a new you, and it doesn't have to be some apparent moment of satori or enlightenment that is some great flash that happened to you. For one thing, you're going to have to quit whining, and you're going to have to quit believing that there is some particular problem that you have. There's some form of psychological arthritis. There is some limp you have. There is some particular time of the day or the week or the month that you have migraines, and all this comes from the horizontal past. All this comes from your city problems, yakety, 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 yak. Check with the great high priests and rabbis of Lieber and Stoller, and they'll tell you about yakety, yak and the importance of it. You can end up on an oldie show. That's the importance of it. You simply have got to find the reach-a point that you can either depend on yourself or to hell with it. Well, it's the kind of things that I've let Kyroots talk about off and on for many months now, slipped in here and there that sound funny. Oftentimes they get laughs. Well, it's the kind of thing of me having Kyroots, letting him say something like, a real revolutionist would never blank, blank, blank. A real revolutionist would always la-di-da-di-da. And many of them are just down to the basis of do it when you can and do it when you can't. It's simple on the basis that if you're going to do something in life, you've got to do it. And the something in life now we're talking about is not you punching out your mother-in-law, you telling your boss off. We're talking about this kind of activity, of course. Whatever you do in life is your own business in a sense. But the time is upon us. I'm going to have to force it to be upon us because of some of the things that I may do. You're going to have to find out there's a piece of you that you can depend on, or you don't belong here. And it's got nothing to do with reason. It's got nothing to do with ordinary rationale. It has nothing to do, actually, with your intelligence. It has to do with the fact of whether you are suitable, whether you are suited up now, that you can just force it into a new kind of partnership. That is not this thing of you wandering around every morning or waking up in the middle of the night and the thing that I'm coming apart. I'm a spider web and a damn hurricane's on the way. And I could be blown apart. Everybody could be blown apart. Who knows? If you're not going to be blown apart psychologically, that is, if you're not going to go crazy before you die, now I got at least this good news, you're going to die anyway. So people can come by and say, He sure did put on a lot of weight and get ugly when he got older. Yeah, but he wasn't acting as weird right before he died. Maybe they'll say that. Maybe you'll feel better. Another way I put it, I have talked around in this direction many times, and it can sound as though it's a pretty cheap, albeit direct maxim. Something is seriously in question, you being involved with this, if you can make any excuse, and it doesn't almost make you sick. Not just here, not just with me, but even out in life with people that it makes no difference to. That you would actually make an excuse. Now, everybody's going to trip. Everybody does get some form of arthritis. Everybody does forget things and all that, and I'm not going into city ideas of perfection because that's only city ideas. It's got nothing to do with the bushes. But to actually be into life, be doing something with ordinary people, and just because you're involved with this, and just because you can even forge a kind of new partnership doesn't mean that you're still not subject to it raining, the wind blowing, that is, what other people call pressures, the flow of life. So it's not that you are not subject to some of the same things. But if you're not to the point that there it is and somebody, an ordinary person says, I ask you to do so-and-so, and as soon as they start, maybe before they open their mouth, you know what's going to happen and you realize, I forgot it. But you do not give an excuse. And there's more to it than just not giving an excuse. But that is for damn sure a good start with most of you. There has been some success. I know that many of you have become a little more taciturn and hesitant to make excuses. But then internally you have got to feel a kind of new partnership that you're aware of all this, that I was in a situation that I should have done so-and-so. I was expected to do so-and-so. I got to play like I was going to do so-and-so, and I didn't do it. But the internal, a new kind of partnership of you toward you, it's on the basis that neither one of you, the partnership has no excuses. You just don't deal in them. It's not just simply shutting up. I repeat, some of you need to go ahead and reach that point. I mean, like that's a big leap that you can't keep your mouth shut. And just don't verbally do it. But there is something else internally behind it. It is a kind of merging that I was going to speak a little more about tonight between what a person thinks and what they say. Excuses are simply not part of your currency. It's not part of the way you think. You're aware of what they are. There's a safe statement. You have been a part and parcel of them in the past. Safe statement too. You're still aware of the purpose they serve in life. But they are not part of your processes. It is not part of your partnership. You do not deal with yourself. Now forget about what you're doing externally. We'll assume that you've always learned how to shut up. You've already learned how to deal with the city. Sometimes you can't shut up in the city. Sometimes you have to make an excuse to keep your job. Internally, you don't deal in it. Internally, it's meaningless. It is not part of your partnership. This feeling that the nervous system is split into two pieces. The part that thinks and the part that doesn't think. The mind. And then the non-thinking mind. The idea of the mind and the unconscious mind. The idea of man, the creature is touched by the cosmic or the godlike spirit, and then the carnal. All of that throughout history. Down to today, me simply calling it a partnership. That which anybody can feel that internally always seems to be at least two of me going on. And if it's not two of me right this second seems to be going on, it's me going on right now. But that other part of me is just over there leaning against that post. He's just hanging out right behind me. All I got to do is stop for a second and it could take over. I have to watch it sometime. I forget what I'm doing and I'll suddenly open my mouth and say something I didn't mean to. But it's always there. It can't always be there. There is no way to slowly work upon this because there is no problem. That's the basis of man. That's the basis of the nervous system. And part of doing this is you forge. That's why I keep using the word forge. It's not just something you work on and piece together. And I'm not going to talk about it as being a gift from the gods or a gift from anywhere. Is you finally have to realize that, you know what, time could be running out. I don't make anybody feel bad. You're not ever supposed to discuss age, and it's a waste of time, to say the least. But some of you are going to have to go ahead and, in the morning when you're smelling the coffee and watching the roses, is go look in the mirror and realize, hey, my life is about half over based upon the actuary tables. So, I believe, oh, why not? Start today. I think I'm just going to force a new partnership, and I ain't going to take no shit. That's it. If any of you can get a piece of that, then a lot of what I've been talking about throughout all these months and years, and a lot of it that you're just sure had some great significance, and you keep writing it down, you keep looking at and thinking about it, you'll suddenly be able to do what it was. But there can't be any room for retreat. There can't be any possibility of surrender. There can't be the discussion of it. It's simply, all right, maybe that'll help some of you. You have to just realize, look, another few months, another few years, and my life is literally half over. It's downhill. Using the city tables, I've hit the peak, and now it's downhill. I'm coasting. I'm just sliding right in. The grave's just sitting there, with its mouth open. I'm just sliding into it. It's reached the point I don't think I either have the money or I no longer have the will to go have a complete face job and have myself done over. Based upon the city, and it doesn't like I'm ever going to get rich and famous, so based upon city standards, it's a fair bet that I'm going to slide into the grave externally, from all appearances, about like I am. So what else could I do? How about this? How about pull your fucking self together? How about maybe to do this that you've been dreaming about, that you're just sure is spectacular, and you're just sure is so far away, and it sounds so obtuse and circular, if not cylindrical. God, if I could just get my hands on it and do it. If you had a new kind of relationship with you, if you could forge a kind of new partnership, where neither one of you is ever out of the room. You don't ever wonder whether the partner, if you're Smith and Jones, whether you walk in and you don't see Smith and you realize he's probably in his office and that's where the safe is. You're always worried. Every time you're out of town, you call the office to make sure he's there. You ask the secretary, is he back there in that same room where the safe is? And everybody takes that personally. That there's something wrong with me, my unconscious mind is some sort of cesspool based upon the mistreatment of my youth, and so I can't depend upon the kind of dreams and the demons, the mythology. Now, I make Bullfinch look like the man was a Presbyterian, perhaps. I got these strange dreams and these nightmares and things that frighten me that I'm afraid I'm going to be out in public. Like the great classic case, I think, from, wasn't it Freud or somebody, the woman who couldn't eat in public because she was always afraid to ask for somebody to hand her the fork because she was just convinced. This was like the turn of the century that she was going to say, hand me the fuck. So maybe some of you don't feel that you are that corseted in to that kind of suspicious, unpredictable activity that might come out of your mouth, but some of you, the end result after the fact is the same way, because that's what life is, of people going, I can't believe I said that. Why'd I do that? And so it is not something that doesn't cause the feeling that I can't trust myself. It's the same thing. But there is this feeling that who knows what I'm going to do next. All right? One thing we do know you're going to do next is die. We know that. Everybody here, I don't care what your background, etc. We all know that. You're going to die. Chances are most of you are not going to be much richer or more famous than you are. Chances are most of you are never going to have complete plastic surgery done. In other words, you're going to look about like you look now. You're going to be, if I've had any good effect at all, you probably, not all of you, a couple of you now, don't worry, but most of you should be getting close enough to realize that health is health and it's not a hobby. That is, that you're going to be about as healthy as you are now. If you're properly drawn to this, as far as the first part of you're going to die, you should be healthy real close up to your dying day. The revolutionists normally got no business, something suspicious, to fall into lingering illnesses. In case some of you won't save money on insurance, if you actually belong here, you don't need it. Because if you get sick and you're about to die, I can almost assure you you're going to die pretty quick. It ain't going to be a lingering process and running up big bills and hurting yourself. But at any rate, so let's establish all that. So your health may be about what it should be. This may be it. Now why don't you try and turn your attention to something that might be able to be done. What else is there internally for you to deal with? what other kind of useless babble are you going to take from life coming through your nervous system? That is, all the dreams talking to you about, well, and they've been going on so long now, you take them as you, but the stuff about, well, of course, I could be rich. And you still have the dreams when somebody goes buying a Rolls Royce or a limo or a Corvette. There's still this dream that any day now, somebody's going to jump out of the bushes, like the whole, who knows what, the Mellon Foundation, and say, aren't you a famous writer that nobody knows about? And you go, yes. And they say, well, here's $2 million. Go write something famous whenever you get a chance, because we just know you deserve it. Either that, or you're going to win, you know what, 2 Publishers Clearinghouse in 1 year, the Florida lottery. You have these dreams, and I got news for you. It's not true. But part of that, of entertaining that, of allowing that to be part of your nervous system, to feel like that is part of the station WMEE, keeps up this fragmented, this fractured feeling about yourself that you can't trust you. Because there's always this part floating around that has these dreams that have nothing to do. Let's just face it, we're not dealing with ordinary psychology, it's just me and you talking. Those kind of dreams have got nothing to do with a revolutionist reality. They do not. The very things I just got through mentioning, most of you. Your health, your wealth, your looks. This is it. When we bury you, you're going to have about as much money as you got now. You're going to look about the same as you look now. Another description, this is not the way to do it, but I'm trying to give you something to go on without having to take a complete negative approach about how you're broke, because you're not, but this is the structure of the nervous system. The feeling that you can't depend on you is the fact that this part of your nervous system, that is life talking to man through the nervous system, that passes for daydreams, passes oftentimes for dreams, believing this could happen. I might accidentally be able to execute and realize some of these dreams. Part of that, in an unanalyzed manner, is in this feeling that you can't trust you, because these dreams go on and on and on and on, and there is a piece of man that knows that shit ain't going to happen. And so you're left with a feeling, a few people. Out in life it can't be analyzed this way, and they couldn't even hear me saying this. But you're left with a feeling that there's so much going on in me. Forget out there right now. But in me there's so much, and I thought I had a pretty good grip on myself. I thought I was not necessarily better educated, but I had a certain turn of mind to even get interested in this sort of thing. And yet the feeling in me is, I'm like maybe a 1929 unrestored rumble seat Model A, and everything, the shocks are gone, everything rattles, you're not sure whether it's going to crank. It's like internally, I'm either like a piece of junk that's just barely running. I don't know if one day the next if it's going to run. It's either that, or I am angel drawers. I am a super delicate little piece of God's work. I'm a little butterfly, could be crushed at any moment. I've always been that way. I was real nervous as a child. My mother will tell you that. It's believing that kind of shit. The gods have put me here probably to inspire the people through my own suffering. It is, all of that was simply to try and get you the feeling, and it doesn't have to be anything in any very specific manner that you feel that you are, perchance, on the verge of being certifiably psychotic. I don't mean that, but the feeling inside that you can't pull it all together. There's so much going on. There's things that you suddenly do, you have all your life, you'll turn around and do something that'll get you in trouble. You keep doing the same thing with your sexual partners, or you keep falling in the same trap for your mother, and etc. And in life, that's always looked at least nowadays, by sophisticated people, as being the influence, the uncontrollable influence of the unconscious mind. It doesn't matter what it's called. It is a part and parcel of feeling is there, I am in partnership with somebody. I was born into this business that I call me, and I got a partner in here, and I don't know the partner. And of course, from there comes the great ideas, know thyself is the purpose of life. In the city, nobody knows themselves, because they don't take it as being themselves and all sorts of other things I've talked about. You've got to get past that. It is not broken. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing else to study, and you can't even look at it. You can't stay and keep looking at it on the basis that something is broken. I need to fix up this thing. It's not broken, so it can't be fixed. which again is one of the great rudimentries of life, that something is broke in me and I can't move further until I do something about this. Those born into this, that's enough of this paragraph's pontification. Those born into this, by now, most of you should be at the point that you can simply hear me. You just got to pull yourself together. You make a new partnership. And don't ask me where the old one goes. I ain't going into that stuff tonight. Don't ask me if it's going to give you trouble. If you got the right kind of partnership, nothing gives you trouble except what I said. Death will give you trouble. The rest of it, the hell with it. Mere dramatics. But that is the attitude. It's why I say stuff like your attitude finally toward you has got to be, hey, can I talk to you personally? You go, yeah, and you say, get fucked. You know, I do all that. You don't go around doing that, of course, unless you want to. It's up to you. But you don't go around doing that to yourself. But the point is, all of the other baggage, all of the other noise of the nervous system that you were born with was not single to you, was not unique to you. You're not angel drawers. You're not God's little butterfly on the wing that's going to be crushed to inspire others. You've not been selected by the gods to some great deed. Or if he has, he's kept it from me about any of you. None of that. And so then, anything that springs from that is what I am hiding, pointing toward, behind me saying, your attitude toward yourself should be, hey, you got to be kidding. You know, hey, take a walk forever. You don't say that, but the thing is you can no longer entertain that. It's meaningless. And one of these specific ways that I was trying to get your attention aimed at tonight was a way in which you have got to be able to depend on you with no more excuses. Not just to me, but to you. Just no excuses. If you do trip, you fall down, you break your ankle. You trip, you fell down, you broke your ankle. What do you want? But don't get up and sing a song about, boy, I've learned my lesson. You ain't learned shit. Or, hey, I tripped because my older brother, that was it, my older brother used to always tell me I was clumsy when I was growing up, and every time he'd do it, my father would go, ha ha, and get a laugh. So now that's what makes me trip. What made you trip was whatever made you trip. Life made you trip. There is nothing to be said about it. Of course, if you really broke it, I guess you could say something like, oh, God! You know, something like that. But there's nothing else to be said about it. And there's certainly nothing to be said like, well, I'll never do that again. Maybe you will and maybe you won't. But you are still bleeding yourself. You're still fueling the nervous system in the same old way to say anything about it. To say, well, I'll never do that again. Or to say, it's really a better one. I know all of you have done it one time or the other. Is to say, God, I had a feeling this morning when I started out running. I just had a feeling I was going to do that. That's probably one of the great ones, because if that was true and you were anything, then of course the question had to be, you got to turn yourself and say, well, you dumb son of a bitch, why didn't you stay home? And then it says, I couldn't help myself. All right, that thing can't ever help itself. And the other, when I say that thing, it's not your unconscious mind, it's not your evil side, it's not the devil made you do it. We're talking about the complete partnership. It just seems to be whatever it is that you told me at that time, like, well, I knew this morning that I was feeling clumsy. I almost knew that I was going to do that. Don't blame it on this other thing. It's the old partnership. It's nobody's fault. There's not one aspect inside of a person's nervous system that's doing this. It's life doing it. If life wasn't doing it, you wouldn't be alive, Tootsie. You would not be breathing. Your nervous system would not be tingling. There would be no noise going on. Life is doing it. But don't look that there is something in me. Unconscious motivations. God knows what else. Unclean spirits. The ghost of Jimmy Hoffa. Something's making me act this way. It's not a something. It is the partnership itself. And the new partnership, you don't have to look at it as I have been reborn as a new Presbyterian or Jew or Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or anything. It's simply that, all right, and you can feel this. Those of you that belong here, the time has come. New partnership. Don't worry about a name, don't worry about nothing. Just, it's a new partnership. We still got problems? Well, that's not my fault. Can I or can I not do a great city imitation? You don't have to name it. You don't have to think about it. You certainly don't have to analyze it. It is simply on the basis that henceforth I am responsible. Not for any psychological reason, not for any spiritual reason, not for any reason. There is no reason. So only people in the city believe that go take a course or get a book that says you must take responsibility for your life. Why? We'll tell you why. There is no why. That's only good in the city. There is no why to it. If there's any why to it, and there was such a thing back in the city, that is in the major organs of life's body, there were actually people using the intellect as they say they can, the frips. There were such things. It would not simply be a question. The question would be, why haven't you done that before now? Why haven't you if you thought about it? There is no why. There is no reason to do it. But you simply feel that I can do it. I can force myself to do it. And if there is no alternative, there is no alternative. There's nothing to talk about. You simply don't drop your eyes. You don't look shy. You don't look chagrined. You don't look embarrassed. You don't look primed for a story. You don't look honest. You don't look anyway. It's a new partnership. And if you can't depend on you can't, whether you know it or not, you can't keep depending and leaning on me forever. And you can't depend on, at times, what seems to be the information itself. It's some great idea that this will carry me through another 6 months. Just that one thing he said, that one thing that struck me, I see the validity. I see it, I see it. If you don't do it, you don't see it, and it's got no validity. It's just intriguing. I might as well be playing the piano or doing a song and dance. It's a kind of entertainment. It tickles the nervous system in some people in places that you can't normally get it tickled. I admit that. But insofar as it's having some great effect on you, there's just somebody going to sweep over you. There is such things possible, but it's once the people that in a sense have got a whole new partnership. That you are responsible for you and there's nothing else to talk about. Nothing. Not with me, not with anybody, not with yourself, because a new partnership doesn't talk about such things. As long as you've got the possibility, as long as you are calling yourself, using my terms, a revolutionist, and you're considering that retreat is always a possibility, don't you understand what that does to you? And we're not even talking about anything now physically, death-defying. But in the real internal sense, as long as retreat, and of course the great retreat is to shift the blame. Or the retreat, if that sounds too direct for you, another form of real retreat is, wait a minute, I can explain what happened. That's retreat. In the 3D world, and the full implications of what I mean by retreat, as long as you have got, as long as you are still accustomed to it, as long as you will accept that internally, that nobody else ever has to know it. Because, of course, sometimes the things are so terrible you wouldn't anybody know anyway. It's just between you and the little godsies about what's happened to you. But as long as there's any form of retreat open to you, that I can accept any excuse, because even if I don't know why, at least I know there's a reason for what I've done and what I've misdone. And there's not. As long as you stay there, the thing is that there's nobody upon whom you can depend. And there is. But you got to force it. It's as though you take a piece of life and you force it, all right, you're going to kill me. You birthed me, so I know damn well you're going to kill me, but I'll be down from now on, from here to there, I'm not going to take any more shit. I'm not going to take in prisoners. I'm not going to take in the leaflets that they keep dropping down here wanting us to surrender, or at least let's talk about it, negotiate. Just none of it. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I think I know what it is. And I'm going to do that because I wouldn't want to do it unless you had told me I could do it. And I'm going to do it, and as far as the rest of it, go tell somebody else to get a nose job. Go tell somebody else to lose weight. Go tell somebody else to work 3 jobs. I ain't going to do it. Not only that, I ain't ever going to think about it anymore. And every time I do try to think about it, I ain't going to think about it. I guess if we had any city spies here, they could say, well, what in the world would you think about then? Am I got to tell everybody everything? Jesus. Life, you remember I've mentioned to you, speaking about death again, I've asked you in several poetic ways whether any of you could see the possibility of life itself having its own long and short-term memory the same as you do, and that perhaps all of the ideas, the dreams of man's immortality, besides the fear of death, as it's called, but the ideas of immortality or life after death could quite properly, to a keen eye, my kind of keen eye, be seen as a difference between an individual, you being part of life's short-term memory, and you croak. And it's like the pizza you ordered. When you look up the number and you ordered it, and they said they'll send it right over, and you hang up the phone and turn around, and you forgot the number. You die, and you're a pizza. A cold delivered pizza that life, at any rate, if you recall, I have pointed out the distinct possibility, at least ask you, could you see that being the kind of basis of people believing there might be a chance of life somewhere else? The difference between staying with life in a long-term sense in its memory. All right, that's not the purpose of this, and I'm not encouraging it for you to dwell on that, but what I wanted to point out was that if you're properly doing this, life needs to feel you moving. Everybody else, your own partnership, the old partnership, everybody else is kind of shuffled around. That's all you've ever been done. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And sometimes it seems to be people and goods, and other times it seems to be services and ideas and feelings. But if you look at it as being people, everything that's happened to you all your life. I can say that to most of you involved with this. You can't say it in the city, but there's a real feeling. Not pessimistic, you'll be able to feel it, and it's not fatalistic in the 3D sense, but you should be able to feel that actually almost everything's ever happened to you, whether it seemed to be good, bad, whether it seemed to be something surprising. You won an award, you lost an award, you're a football hero one time, whatever it was. Can you in the partnership say, we planned, we worked, we plotted, and we brought it right to this one moment where time and space met this great juncture, and I was prepared. I prayed, I fasted, I studied. I don't know what the hell you come up with. But all you should be able to feel by now that in a sense, just people got shuffled around, and you were in a certain spot there for about 15 minutes or so, and everybody went, wow, it's him, how great, how great. And you thought, how great indeed. 15 minutes later, you couldn't get a dime for a cup of coffee. Even your friends, the crowd had forgotten you. That's being shuffled. To do something willfully, to be able to actually forge a kind of new partnership, is what I'm hinting to you behind the term of me saying that life needs to eventually feel you move. What's of any consequence in you? The stuff that you continually daydream about, you could look at as being your own form of you in you. You pay attention to it, the noise, the same old claptrap that's always gone on? You forget it's there until I give some kind of excursion and say, go do so-and-so and then watch this and that and then answer me this question. You take the noise, it's still you. It's the station, WMEE, Blatt, Blair, Babel. It's me. Sometimes I hear my stomach rumbling, but most of the time I hear me. You hear the noise. You hear the nervous system alive. To take some control over that. For no reason, no purpose, there is no why, and it's not on the basis of I'll do it, if such and such happens, then I'll do it. If you just do it. It's then I'm suggesting to you that life can feel you move. That you can actually take some move, if it's just a step. Because inside of you, what is the only things that have ever had any effect upon you? Let's say that at least some of them, if not all of something would stand out to you now, would be something involved with this, with your pursuit of this. When it happened, it was not the ordinary shuffling around. It was not taking the same old ideas. It was not the same things you'd been thinking and dreaming of and insisting was true and you talking to yourself about forever and ever and just simply shuffling them around. When you see something, when you have a moment of almost turning around the corner, it's like internally something in you moved. There's no doubt about it. It's nothing to discuss. It's not a theory. And that's why I'm suggesting to you that life has got to eventually feel about you. This has got to feel you move. If not, you're just a collection of very small cells. You're as important as any other bundle of cells, more or less. But life doesn't even feel you move. In the same way that you don't feel the run-of-the-mill ideas and feelings that you have experienced for life through your own nervous system, you don't take them as being of any consequence. Again, that's part of the almost frantic clutching that people do toward religion and the idea of psychology, is it is of no consequence, and people keep believing. Life makes you just insist, well, there's got to be. Maybe I'm in the wrong religion. Maybe I hadn't found the right guy with a turban on his head. There's got to be some great significance to this, and I'll see it. Back in the city, there's no significance to anything, except for people living in the city. And it's all significant, and of course, as you know, in the 3D world now, we can all sing along, it's all significant, and it's all not significant. So there you are. But out here, it's not significant. It's nothing. It's noise. It's the hum of the city. I got a few more minutes on my side of the tape. Let me lay this on you, and perhaps I'll pick it up next time or some other time, and perhaps not. Oh, all right, possibly I will. I know I told you possibly instead of perhaps, but this kind of forming of a new partnership, I'm switching the level a little bit. I'm going down to something right quick now that's more verbally describable in ideas and maps I've sketched out in the past. And this is not the way to do it. The way to do it is to do it. But those of you that may believe that you need something else, one more thing to think about. Right. One more little place, one more little stone upon which to step to carry me across this perhaps dangerous river. You should have been a poet. Either that or you should have been a ferryman. This is not the way to do it, but I was going to pull together some of the past maps and descriptions. You could look upon at least the outcome of forging a new partnership as being as though you had merged the private and the public I's in you. That you had combined the individual and the community selves in you. It's like you have merged together once and for all what you think and what you say, that there is no difference. May I remind you from the last time I mentioned this, the merging is not a 3D merging to say that you merge what you think and what you say, because then a reasonable question for the nervous system is, all right, is what you say now what you think, or is what you think now what you say? And then, if there was just a split second you had any possibility of being a fripp, I'd want to grab you, at least in two places that should be thought-provoking, and say you almost had it. It's neither one. But you'd go, no. If you're going to merge what you say with what you think, then one of them has to be now the other one. That is, what you say from now on has got to be actually what you think, right? No. Oh, all right. Then from now on what you... No. That's why merge is not even the word, because in the 3D world, remember, things don't get merged. They're just inconclusive. They just go on and on and on and on, fucking on forever. Until you die. And then, by some reports, you think they quit. But what happened is you quit. And they kept going on and on and on and on. But I am just saying this would be verbally, at a little more simplistic level than where I started, that there would no longer be that kind of distinction, that experience distinction in you. Of course, it wouldn't necessarily be observable one way or the other, but inside of you, you would know that what seems to be my private and my public voices have ceased. There is no such distinction. And what seems to be my individual self and then my community, my collective self, us as being Protestants, or us as being Americans, or whatever you felt. You feel something, no matter where you came from. That is a part of a kind of collective sense of the nervous system. But that would get merged. You would no longer be, as I've hinted, you're a real revolutionist, even using my terms, that picture. A real revolutionist is not chauvinistic and not nationalistic, not jingoistic, none of that. Not because it's wrong, because it's blank. So that would be a manifestation of what I'm using now, the term the community or the collective self in you. It would be merged, not in a 3D sense. It would not be that now my individual sense of I is merged with me being a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. It's that both of them are gone. They hadn't actually been merged. You're a new partnership, and whatever that was, it's just now irrelevant. It's last year's pair of shoes. This is still, if you can hear any of it, indicative, even verbally, of what I started out trying to point out, that the forming of a new partnership, the forceful forging of it, is not the putting together of anything. It's in a sense a walking away from this, which is really figuratively speaking, because you can't walk away from it. It's in there. But it is a walking away from it, and from now on I will not deal with myself on that basis. From now on I will deal with me absolutely with no excuses. I don't care what the hell it is. It's just over. There are no excuses. What happens, happens. My old self always told me the worst thing that could happen was die. And if that's the worst thing that can happen, why the hell have I been dealing with this shit all my life? Because that's for damn sure going to happen. And the rest of it I thought was minor inconveniences, and my big nose and my lack of a Ferrari. I'm probably going to keep my big nose and probably going to keep my Honda or maybe a Toyota someday. But that's it. This is what interests me. This, every time I get a piece of it, I couldn't care whether I had 3 noses. Every time I get a little piece of this, I don't care if I had a car. Got nothing against cars, but it all just ceases. And to say it's a joy and a relief is to take the words joy and relief and just trample them in the mud. But as long as you have got any excuse, as long as you have got a rat hole anywhere, as long as you will entertain the possibility, as you must if you stay back at that old relationship with you, of accepting any story, any feeling that I can't be trusted. If you can't be trusted, it's over with. If you can't depend on you, the time comes that you can't go any further with this. And as you just feel as though, whether you analyze it this way or not, you're just riding all over me. And I can only carry so many people. You're just riding on me, and it just seems to be fun sometimes. Sometimes it seems as though you can almost do something. Boy, if I could do something all the time like I can some of the time. Yeah. If you can make a new partnership, that you just simply depend on you and that's it. That you finally in your life have made one conclusive statement. After all my warnings, which is supposed to make you see that that's the way life is, that you have found out that I am going to finally put a period on a sentence. I'm going to depend on me. Case closed. And if I don't, somebody's going to have to kill me. Something terrible. There just is no excuse. There's no way out. There's no possibility of retreat. I'll give a little excursion so people on the tape won't take but a second. And then we're going to turn the tape over for the people here to give you their views and their reactions to living in a cosmic quagmire. No. Are we back? The excursion. I want you to try for 3 days. Every time the nervous system is dealing with such things and you're talking, if you can do it externally, do so. But internally is the real excursion. It's when you're talking to yourself, when you're thinking something. And as I said, if you can do it, without interfering with your life in the city, of course, externally do it. But I want you to do this. For 3 days, try, and every time you think and say to yourself in a sentence, the word but, replace it with and. Put and everywhere that you want to put in buts. Got me? We're replacing buts with ands. Need I say, trust me? Just 3 days, don't overdo it. Now, I wouldn't want any... Some of you people tend to overdo it. You try to tell somebody to do something to be worthwhile. Don't overdo it. For God's sake, don't overdo it. Don't take in this stuff and overdo it. Now, everybody should understand it. Do not overdo this stuff. Oh, no. Ease up, let up, no. Don't overdo any of this, right? No, don't overdo it. Don't ever overdo it. Some of you people out of town sometimes won't overdo it. I know it. But I'm telling you, don't you overdo it.